إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أن نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة خلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا والنساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أبتي إني أخاف إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبتي إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيد لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. وكذلك يجتبيك ربك يعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتمها على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق إن ربك عليم حكيم. لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آية للسائلين. أما بعد إن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. We begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We begin as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would remind the community on the day of Jummah in what we have codified as Khutbah al-Hajjah, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say a series of 5 statements that would reaffirm for himself and the community our pact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it begins with Inna alhamdulillah. Verily all praise and all thanks belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nahmaduhu. We praise and we thank Allah. Wa nasta'inuhu. And we admit our relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of isti'an, as one of help. We ask for Allah for help. Allah does not need our help. Wa nastaghfiruhu. And we seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شُرُورِ أَنفُسِنَا. And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evils and the weaknesses of ourselves. وَمِنْ سَيِّئَاتِ أَعْمَالِنَا. And from the weaknesses in our actions. Because we don't come to the day of Jum'ah because we're perfect people. We come to the day of Jum'ah because we're flawed people and we're trying to get guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَنْ يَهْدِهِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ. And we admit that the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives guidance to, and we hope to be amongst them, ameen, that no one can misguide them. وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. And the one who turns away from the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no guidance for that person. And then do we feel qualified to repeat the statement that runs our lives, أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. That we bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship other than Allah. No one worthy of our absolute attention and our absolute love other than Allah. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not just a Lord who created, but a Lord who guides us in the form of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon him. In today's brief khutbah, in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to be sharing a small snippet from one story that's found within the Quran. And some of you might have recognized it in the initial recitation, but it's actually the beginning portions of Surah Yusuf. But most of us, when we think about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, we think about the grand narrative. And subhanAllah, what a grand narrative it is. It is the longest single story in the Quran that captures Yusuf alayhi salam from his most youthful moments as a 5 or 6-year-old to much later on in his life when he's almost middle-aged. And Allah captures his amazing story But actually, before I begin getting into the ayat that I wanted to discuss, a quick commentary on just stories in the Quran in general. The stories in the Quran are not put there just for us to get entertainment value out of, just for us to reminisce about the past. It's actually, these are eternal conversations and eternal stories that are relevant for every time. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has captured them within the Quran. And in the Quran, we have such beautiful situations that take place. We have youth that feel disenfranchised from their community, like Surah Al-Kahf, and they have to hide from their community. That's consistently happening. We have a group of people that have no power, who are confronting a tyrant who has power. We have the story of Bani Israel and Fir'aun. In the story of Musa alayhi salam. We have a woman who was wrongly accused of immorality. In the story of Maryam alayhi salam, and how her community turns on her at a second's notice. Something that consistently happens. We have a parent who is worried about his child. Something that continuously happens. And actually, that's the point that I wanted to pick up today, is a parent who interacts with his child, and the few words that he says in this small interaction actually end up being the moral compass that this child carries with him for his entire life, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captures. إِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفْ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِ إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِسَاجِدِينَ. Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah opens with the story of him and his father having just a small conversation, which is strange because we think there's going to be an epic tale. It should start with a pretty big prologue, but actually Allah doesn't start with the prologue. Allah starts off with, and a son, a little child, talked to his father. And he says to his father something very simple. I saw in my dream the sun and the moon and 10 stars, and all of them were bowing because of me. لِسَاجِدِينَ. One thing to start off with is, the son was able to talk to his father about a dream. It's just pretty amazing because unfortunately many of our families, you don't talk to your parent unless you have something of utmost importance, or also say, I don't have time for this. That wasn't the father that Yusuf alayhi salam had. Allah gave him Yaqub. I had a dream, and I don't know, I just wanted to share this dream with you, Dad. Ya abati, oh my father, my loving father, I have a dream and I want to share it with you. And what his father does is even more significant. His father responds, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تَقْصُصْ رُؤْيَاكَ عَلَىٰ إِخْوَتِكَ فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا. His father says, oh my son, he listened to his dream, and one of the things he realizes is his son is actually very, very smart. Because what seems to be bad grammar in Arabic was actually Yaqub alayhi salam picked up that my son is special. He didn't just say, oh, great story, son, now go have some ice cream, or go do whatever. He listened to him, he realized, my son is very, very intelligent. Because Yusuf alayhi salam, without getting too grammatical, Yusuf alayhi salam, when he described the sun, the moon, and the stars, the proper way in Arabic to describe inanimate objects would be to describe them with an inanimate ra'aytuhunna or ra'aytuha. I saw them. But he says ra'aytuhum. He actually interprets that the sun, moon, and the stars are actually people. رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِسَاجِدِينَ. His father realizes, my son is smart. He's not only having a dream, he's interpreting the dream and telling me the interpretation as he's speaking. And he says, the first thing he says is, don't tell your brothers about this. And then continuing, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عُدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Indeed, shaitan is a clear enemy to people. The first part that's significant is, his father is not afraid to talk to Yusuf alayhi salam about a complex topic. He realizes there's some negativity with his other kids. And in order to prevent Yusuf alayhi salam from getting harmed, he's going to tell him right away, don't tell your brothers. The reason this is important is, I work as a counselor. And I get the insight into weird family situations where an uncle abused a child, where a sibling backstabbed another sibling, where some terrible family situations are taking place. And part of the reason they're taking place is because everyone's like, shh, don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone. But this is a father in the Quran who's saying to his son, be careful about your brothers. they might do something. He is not afraid to protect his son from harm. And that's something all of us should kind of keep in mind, that we are charged with protection over the people around us, over our families. And sometimes they need protection from the outside, and sometimes they need protection from the inside. And he wasn't worried about his son's reputation in that moment. Instead, he actually just said, just don't tell your brothers about this. Shaitan is a clear enemy. Your brothers aren't bad people. It's not because of them. It's because Shaitan's bad. He's willing to protect his son. And that's something we should be doing, is protecting our children. Not just from the evils that exist outside, but also sometimes the harm that exists within our own families. That's the first thing. And that's actually not what I wanted to really focus on in this khutbah. The next ayah is what I really wanted to focus on. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And this is how your Lord يَجْتَبِيكَ. He chose you. Ijtiba is an amazing verb in Arabic. It's different than istafa. Istafa is to choose someone. It would be like if I came in here and I needed help with something in the parking lot, I would talk to the first 3 people I saw. Hey, you 3, please help me. That's not ijtiba. That's istifa. Ijtiba is your special qualities. Because you have such special qualities, Allah chose you. It would be like me walking in here and holding interviews to see who can help with this task the most. Allah chose you. And He continues, وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And He is going to teach you, and He has already taught you, the true meaning of interactions. Not just dreams, but of interactions in general. When you talk to people, you'll be able to talk to them in a way that no one else will be able to talk to them. You'll be able to understand them in a way that no one else will be able to understand them. And He continues, وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ. And He's showering His blessings upon you. عَلَيْكَ وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ. And He's showering His blessings on you just like He showered our forefathers before us. You're part of an amazing legacy. So what was it? Allah chose you because of your unique attributes. You're smart. You already know this. Allah is going to teach you even more. You're already blessed by Allah, and Allah is going to bless you even more. And you're going to continue on the legacy that our forefathers had. You're going to make the entire family proud. And then He continues, Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. And of course, Allah is the one who is the most knowledgeable, and Allah is the one with the most authority. Allah chose you. This comes from Allah. So this isn't something that I'm just saying. This is actually from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason that's significant is, does Yusuf alayhi salam have an easy life? Actually, no. He has the most difficult life. When you talk about a single person going through a lot of darkness, his brothers kidnap him. He's thrown into a well alone. He's sold into slavery. Then he's sold into the house of a politician. And if we know anything about politicians, not good stuff happens in the house of a politician. It's bad environment after bad environment after bad environment. After being sold into the house of a politician, he's wrongly accused of a crime, and he spends a couple of years, actually over 10 years in prison. This is, if we're talking about bad company that Yusuf alayhi salam has, his life is full of bad company. But what kept him going all of this time was actually his father believed in him. His father was willing to listen to him, and it gave him a few words of encouragement. And he kept that with him, and that became the formation of his life, and that's what allowed him to get through such difficult circumstances in his life. Yes, he was a prophet, and yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was guiding him. But we can't deny that this father relationship, this pivotal point in Yusuf alayhi salam's life, when he got the support that he needed, that really equipped him to succeed later on in life. And the reason that's the lesson I want to focus on is, alhamdulillah, we're in break time right now. Most of us spend more time with our families now than we do in other parts of the year. It's a time to be like, take some of the lessons of the Quran, be like Yaqub alayhi salam. Listen to your children, listen to your family, figure out what are their strengths, and empower them with those strengths. Call them names that they're happy with. Call out their good qualities and just say, I'm proud of you. And I'm going to be proud of you in the future as well. Those words might seem meaningless from our tongue, but they really hit the hearts of children and allow a light to form there that can be guiding for the rest of their lives. Because Yaqub alayhi salam doesn't get a lot of time with his son after this. Yusuf alayhi salam is taken away from his father and doesn't see him for another 30, 40 years. But this was so impactful to him that that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the story. That's one reason I mentioned is because we have time, and the other reason I mentioned this is actually a darker reason. Again, I work as a counselor, so I have students oftentimes, college-age students, telling me about their relationship with their parents. And unfortunately, some of the stories I hear is, my father thinks I'm a failure. My mother has never said a compliment to me. They'll say these type of words. And that follows them. You know what? Now I'm going to do something to spite them because they think that of me anyway. That they carry that with them, rather than what a parent is supposed to do, the Quranic ideal of a parent: empower your child. Tell them that they're going to succeed. Tell them that you're proud of them. Tell them that Allah has given them unique characteristics that are going to allow them to succeed. If that's what's imparted with them, that's how they're going to see themselves. So that's why I wanted to share this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. In the example, or in the sign, or in the story of Yusuf and his brothers, are signs for those who, the typical translation is لِلسَّائِلِينَ, those that ask. But another way we understand those that ask is those that are in need. If we find ourselves in need, we look to the stories in the Quran. If we find that our family needs to be reformed in some way, look to the stories of the Quran. Look to how Yaqub and Yusuf alayhi salam interacted with each other, and that will be the guiding light in terms of how we're supposed to interact with our families. It's not too late to change what that interaction really looks like. It can take just a few words. Just like it can take a few words to set someone down a terrible path, it can take just a few words to set someone down an amazing path. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to speak to our loved ones, our children, our parents in a way that empowers them. Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those that follow the example of Yaqub alayhi salam, that pay attention to the strengths of our children and disregard the negative qualities of our children, but we don't completely turn a blind eye to the negative actions of our children, that we protect our families when it's a time for protection, and we empower them when it's a time to empower them. Inshallah, in the second portion of the khutbah, I'm going to be speaking about the opposite. What responsibility now do children have towards their parents? Because the Quran has a balanced approach to this. It's not just the parent's responsibility, it's not just the child's responsibility. We need to emphasize both of them, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the wisdom of understanding what that balance is, so that we live lives that are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. The first khutbah we learned a couple of ayat from Surah Yusuf, in which a father interacts with his very young child, and he empowers him, and that empowerment allows him to get through the darkest moments in that child's life. Sometimes we as parents, we try to just shield our children from as many bad things as possible, and in trying to shield them from it, we're stern with them. That's not the Quranic ideal. The Quranic ideal seems to be recognize that your children are going to go through some dark times. Give them words that allow them to get through those dark times. But now I'm going to flip it. How about the children? What's their role in all of this? Or actually, some of us might say, well, now I have an excuse. My father didn't do this, my mother didn't do this, so I can do whatever I want now. Actually, that's not the Quran either. That's not the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either. I'm not going to go over all of the ayat, but I am going to go over just a few ayat that are found within Surah Maryam, in which Ibrahim alayhi salam's story is to a small extent just captured. And in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, most of us understand who his father was. His father wasn't the best parent. If we're talking Yaqub as being a really good father, Azar, the father of Ibrahim, will be amongst the worst fathers. Ibrahim alayhi salam goes up to him and says, Ya abati inni akhafu. Oh my father, I am afraid for you. And he continues saying why he's afraid for him. And his father responds, قال أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم? Are you leaving the way of your forefathers, Ibrahim? Do you not have any desire to follow my gods? And then he continues, if you continue down this, لَنْتَهِ لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ, I'm going to stone you. That doesn't sound like a very good relationship. He says, oh my loving father, I fear for you. And his father goes, I'm going to stone you if you don't leave right now. It's a very difficult scenario. Ibrahim alayhi salam doesn't use this moment to say, well fine, I'm going to leave anyway. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, my father, I'm going to leave you because you have told me to leave you, but I will continue to pray for you and I will never be wrong. I will never do wrong towards you. Ibrahim alayhi salam says this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. When Ibrahim alayhi salam finally found himself in a situation where he was away from those that worshipped other than Allah, وَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. We blessed him with Ishaq and Yaqub. وَكُلًّا جَعَلْنَا نَبِيًّا. And we made all of them prophets. And the reason that's significant is, most of the time, if someone has a bad relationship with their father, do they have a good relationship with their children? No, it's actually abuse tends to follow. If someone abuses their child tends to abuse their child, and their child tends to abuse their child. Abuse passes from generation to generation. Your relationships are built that way. But actually Allah says, no, this stopped. Because of the way Ibrahim responded to his father with kindness, we didn't allow this to follow with the way he interacts with his child. Actually, we have in other places in the Quran, when Allah describes the beautiful relationship of Ibrahim and Ishaq, it's when they used to run together. When Ishaq got to the age where they used to run together, and he asked, what do you think about this dream? They have a beautiful relationship. And why is that? Because he didn't allow abuse, or he didn't allow a negative style of communication to be what followed him. Because that's what our parental relationship really looks like. I could get into this at a psychological level with the attachment theory, meaning how you actually attach yourself to your parent sets the style with which you will attach yourself to everyone else in your life. Without even going there, just think about it this way: how you treat your parents. One of a scholar that I love to quote often, he says something interesting about your parents. He says, your parents are Allah's ambassadors to you. And you never disrespect an ambassador. They are Allah's ambassadors. You didn't get to choose them. Allah gave them to you. And how you treat them will determine how you treat everyone else in your life. So don't cut, even if they are cutting themselves off from you, you don't mistreat them. Because how you treat them will set your identity. And you want your identity to be one of justice and mercy. And if you can control your interaction with your parents, be kind to them, it will enable you to control the interactions with all the people around you as well. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those who are the best to their parents. Ameen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be those who can be the best to our children. Ameen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he was in the most excellent of character. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to use the time we have with our families in order to build bonds with them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equip us with the tools to undo the harm that we might have already done to our families. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to speak words that are congruent with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those that take lessons from stories and apply them into our lives. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وشكره يزدكم واتقوه يجعل لكم مخرجا وأقيموا الصلاة.